Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about the cognitive revolution. So first I want to go over what cognitive psychology is, and it is the study of mental processes such as attention, language use, memory, perception, problem solving, creativity, and thinking. So a big reason why cognitive psychology is fairly young is because scientists in the past wanted psychology to be more scientific. So for it to be more scientific, you had to be able to manipulate data, record data, and record experiments and stuff like that. So when Pavlov and B.F. Skinner did their experiments, Pavlov with the dogs and Skinner with the rats, they were able to record it, they were able to gather data on it and be able to report on it, manipulate it, and stuff like that. So cognitive psychology, they didn't think was very scientific, and that's why it wasn't very popular. But then a couple people that were pretty good with this was, Jean Piaget with his stages of cognitive development and stuff like that was a big stage. And he was 1896 to 1980. So basically when the cognitive revolution happened was around the 1950s. So his stuff came a little bit, some of his stuff probably came after and stuff like that. So, but the biggest contributor to the cognitive revolution was Chomsky and his review of B.F. Skinner's verbal behavior. And he was saying that language is too complex to be explained by operant conditioning, which is the big thing that B.F. Skinner was all about. And we have to be able to study mental processes, and again, mental processes was more of like, you couldn't really see it, so that's why for a long time we didn't really recognize it. Another reason I think that it kind of happened was like around when the times computers were being made, and so the concept of like computers have a goal and they kind of have a mind, and they have they're kind of able to learn and do things kind of like the human brain is. So when the scientists thought about, okay, well, here we have a computer and we have to be able to understand how it works, so why is it impossible to think we could do the same with the human mind, because they're kind of similar. So there were 5 major ideas from the cognitive revolution, and it was: the mental world can be grounded in a physical world by the concept of information, computation, and feedback. The mind cannot be a blank slate, because if it's a blank slate, then there's nothing on it, and we know that that's not true, that, even as a baby, we still like do stuff. There's an infinite range of behavior that can be generated by finite combinational programs in the mind. The mind is a complex system composed of many interacting parts, which is the same with a computer. So again, I think that's kind of like, besides Chomsky and stuff that they did, I think that it was interesting about the computer. Universal mental mechanisms can underlie superficial variation across cultures. So those were some of the 5 major ideas from the cognitive revolution. And another person who was a big influential person was George Miller. And he was influential because his main study was how much information can the human mind contain. And his magic number was 7 plus or minus 2, so we can hold up to 5 things of information to 7 to 9, around that range. And so that, of course, was a big deal too, because this was, again, just one of those theories that it was accurate, but it was still kind of far-fetched for them to imagine. So that's why cognitive psychology didn't really come around until about this time. Sometimes I think it's basically just because with the scientists wanting to be able to have more physical, scientific theory processes, and then they didn't like this because it kind of was more philosophical in the fact that you couldn't see it, and so they didn't think it was scientific. And I know I probably mentioned that before, but I think that's probably the most important thing to get when you think about the cognitive revolution. And another thing we need to realize is that with the cognitive revolution, it didn't make behavioralism go away, like how functionalism made structuralism go away, or in other things. I think that's what it was. But it was a huge improvement to the science of psychology and really helped, as we know today, because it does a lot with, you know, there's people who work with people in, you know, it's important for dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, because the work that cognitive psychology has with the memory, and hopefully someday we will find a cure to Alzheimer's. But I feel that when you go to a cognitive psychologist for these type of issues, the tricks that they have probably help a lot, and I think it's important. So without this information and the science of cognitive psychology, Alzheimer's would probably be a way scarier disease than it is today. So other than that, this is what I've got for you today, and I hope it was good. I'm not very good at this, as I've said in the past. So have a great day, good luck on finals, and we're almost done.